Her husband chose another bride, but the cowboy chose her heart. The wedding dress still hung in Clara May's wardrobe, untouched for 3 months now. White silk and lace that had never seen sunlight, never felt the weight of promises made and vows spoken. Sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, she could hear it whispering in the darkness, a reminder of dreams that had crumbled like autumn leaves. The telegram had arrived on a Tuesday morning in April. Clara May remembered this detail with startling clarity, the way one remembers exactly where they stood when lightning strikes. Her fiancé, Thomas Whitmore, had written in careful script that he had found someone else, someone more suitable, someone whose father owned more land, more cattle, more of everything that mattered in the hard arithmetic of frontier life. Clara May had read those words 3 times before they sank into her heart like stones into still water. Now, as summer settled over the dusty town of Millbrook Valley, Clara May found herself standing on the front porch of her father's general store, watching life move forward without her. The morning air carried the scent of sagebrush and distant rain, and she breathed it in slowly, trying to fill the hollow spaces inside her chest. "Morning, Miss Clara." The voice came from beside her, warm and unhurried. She turned to find Ezra Blackwood tipping his worn cowboy hat in her direction. He stood there with an easy grace that reminded her of the way cottonwoods swayed in gentle wind-rooted, steady, completely at peace with where they belonged. "Morning, Ezra," she replied, surprised by how natural his name felt on her lips. Ezra had been delivering supplies to her father's store for the better part of 2 years. He worked the Rocking H Ranch, 20 miles south of town, and came to Millbrook Valley twice a month with orders for flour, coffee, and whatever else the ranch hands needed. Clara May had always noticed him, how could she not? He moved through the world with quiet confidence, his blue eyes taking in everything with a kind of attention that suggested he actually saw what he was looking at. But she had been engaged then, promised to another. Ladies didn't notice cowboys when they were promised to bankers' sons. "Heard tell there's a storm coming in tonight," Ezra said, settling against the porch railing as if he had all the time in the world. "Might be a big one." Clara May glanced at the clear morning sky, then back at Ezra. "How can you tell?" "Horses know first," he explained, his voice carrying that same unhurried cadence that made everything sound like poetry. "They get restless when the weather's fixing to change. Been pacing all morning, ears twitched forward like they're listening to something we can't hear yet." She found herself genuinely curious about this, about the way he read the world like an open book. "What else do you notice?" Ezra smiled then, and Clara May felt something flutter in her chest, not the desperate, grasping feeling she'd had with Thomas, but something quieter and deeper, like recognition. Birds flew low yesterday, swallows especially, and the air tastes different when you really pay attention to it, heavier like it's carrying secrets. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, and Clara May marveled at how easy it was to simply exist next to this man. With Thomas, every conversation had felt like a performance, each word carefully chosen to present the right image. But with Ezra she felt no need to be anything other than exactly who she was. "I should help you load those supplies," she said finally, remembering why he was here. "No hurry," Ezra replied. "Your father's still pulling the order together. Said it might take a while." Another pause, filled with the distant sound of horses moving in the paddock behind the store, and the soft whisper of wind through the wooden buildings that lined Millbrook Valley's main street. "I was sorry to hear about your engagement," Ezra said quietly. Clara May's hands tightened on the porch railing. She had grown accustomed to the pitying looks, the whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room, the careful way people avoided mentioning Thomas's name. But something in Ezra's tone was different, not pity, but something like understanding. "Were you?" she asked, surprised by her own boldness. "Well," Ezra said, and she could hear the smile in his voice without looking at him. "I reckon I was sorry it hurt you, but I can't say I was sorry about the rest of it." Clara May turned to look at him fully then, studying his profile as he gazed out at the mountains that rose like sleeping giants beyond the valley. His face was weathered from sun and wind, honest in the way that faces become when they've never learned to hide behind masks. "That's a curious thing to say to a lady you barely know, is it?" Ezra asked, finally meeting her eyes. "Seems to me like maybe I've been knowing you longer than you think. A man notices things, Miss Clara. The way you smile at Mrs. Henderson when she comes in flustered and worried about her sick boy. How you always remember to ask Jake Morrison about his mother's arthritis. The way you stand up straighter when someone's being unkind. To the children who come in with dirty faces and empty pockets." Clara May felt warmth spread through her chest, not the burning heat of embarrassment, but something gentler and more sustaining. "I notice things too," she said softly, such as the way you never let your horse stand in the sun too long when you come to town. How you always tip your hat to Mrs. Chen even though some folks won't even look at her. The way you helped fix old Pete's wagon wheel last month without him even asking. Ezra was quiet for a long moment, and Clara May wondered if she had said too much, revealed too much about the attention she had been paying to a cowboy, when she was supposed to be focused on her banker's son. Clara May, he said finally, and her name sounded different in his mouth than it had in Thomas's. Warmer, more real. Would you walk with me? She should have said no. A proper lady didn't go walking with men she wasn't courting, especially not when her broken engagement was still fresh gossip in every parlor and general store from here to Denver. But Clara May found herself nodding, found herself stepping down from the porch and falling into step beside Ezra as he led her away from the main street and toward the path that wound along Willow Creek. They walked in comfortable silence, their footsteps soft on the dusty ground. The creek gurgled beside them, and somewhere in the cottonwoods, a meadowlark was singing. Clara May breathed in the morning air and realized she felt lighter than she had in months. "Can I tell you something?" Ezra said when they reached a bend in the creek where a fallen log made a natural seat. "Yes, I used to look forward to supply runs more than I probably should have," he admitted, settling onto the log and gesturing for her to join him. "Not because I enjoyed the ride to town, though it's pretty country, and not because your father stocks better coffee than most, though he does." Clara May sat beside him, careful to maintain a proper distance, though something in her wanted to sit closer, to feel the solid warmth of him next to her. "Why then?" "Because I knew I'd see you," Ezra said simply, "even when you were promised to someone else. Even when it wasn't my place to think such things. I looked forward to seeing your face. The way you light up when you're helping someone. The way you tuck that one piece of hair behind your ear when you're concentrating. The way you hum while you work, like you've got music inside you that just naturally wants to come out." Clara May felt tears prick at her eyes, but they weren't the bitter tears she had cried over Thomas's betrayal. These were different, warmer. "Ezra," she whispered. "I know it's too soon," he continued, his voice steady and sure. "I know you're still healing from what that fool did to you, but I wanted you to know that when I look at you, I don't see damaged goods or someone to be pitied. I see a woman who's beautiful inside and out, who deserves to be chosen first, not settled for." The meadowlark's song seemed louder now, competing with the sound of Clara May's heart beating against her ribs. "Thomas said I wasn't enough," she said quietly. "Not pretty enough, not refined enough, not wealthy enough. He said his new bride was everything I wasn't." "Then Thomas is a fool," Ezra replied without hesitation, "and I reckon his loss is my gain, if you'll let it be." Clara May turned to look at him fully, studying the honest kindness in his blue eyes, the patient way he waited for her response without pushing or demanding. "What are you asking me, Ezra?" "I'm asking if you'd let me court you proper," he said. "Take you to the church social on Saturday, bring you wildflowers and terrible poetry, sit with you on your father's porch in the evenings and listen to you talk about whatever's on your mind. I'm asking if you'd give me the chance to show you what it feels like to be chosen." The word hung in the air between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Chosen, not settled for, not accepted as a consolation prize, but chosen. Deliberately, joyfully, completely. "Yes," Clara May said, and the word felt like stepping into sunlight after months in shadow. Ezra's smile could have powered every lamp in Millbrook Valley. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and when she didn't, he brushed that wayward piece of hair behind her ear with gentle fingers. "I should probably warn you," he said, his voice warm with humor. "I wasn't kidding about the terrible poetry." Clara May laughed, and the sound surprised her. When had she last laughed like that? Free and genuine and full of possibility. "I should warn you too," she replied. "I hum while I work." "I know," Ezra said. "It's one of my favorite things about you." They sat by the creek as the morning deepened into afternoon, talking about everything and nothing. Ezra told her about the horses he gentled, and the storms he watched roll across the prairie. Clara May shared her dreams of expanding her father's store, maybe adding books and pretty things for the women who rarely got to see beauty in their hard frontier lives. As the sun reached its peak, Ezra's prediction about the weather proved true. Clouds began to gather on the horizon, and the air took on that heavy quality he had described earlier. "We should head back," he said reluctantly. They walked slowly, neither wanting the morning to end. As they approached the store, Clara May's father appeared on the porch, supplies loaded and ready. "There you are," he called out, but his tone was pleased rather than worried. "Ezra, your order's ready." Clara May, Mrs. Peterson, stopped by looking for that special thread you ordered for her. I'll be right there, Papa, Clara May replied, then turned to Ezra. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for saying yes, he answered. As Ezra loaded his supplies and prepared to leave, the first fat raindrops began to fall. True to his prediction, the storm was going to be a significant one. But Clara May no longer minded the thought of storms. She had learned that morning that some of life's most beautiful moments came after the clouds cleared. I'll see you Saturday, Ezra asked, swinging up into his saddle with easy grace. Saturday, Clara May confirmed. She watched him ride away until he disappeared around the bend, then stood on the porch, letting the rain wash over her face. The wedding dress still hung in her wardrobe, but it no longer whispered of broken dreams. Instead, it seemed to murmur of possibilities yet to come, of new beginnings dressed in different colors. Behind her, the store's bell chimed as customers sought shelter from the storm. Clara May smiled and went inside to help them, humming softly under her breath. The music inside her, it seemed, was ready to come out and play once more. Outside, the storm raged with magnificent fury, but inside, Clara May felt nothing but peace. Thomas Whitmore had chosen another bride, but Ezra Blackwood had chosen her. And for the first time in months, Clara May felt certain that she had been chosen by exactly the right man. The wedding dress could wait. When the time came, she would wear it for someone who saw her as his first choice, his only choice, his heart's truest desire. Someone who noticed the way she tucked her hair behind her ear and found music in her humming. Someone who chose her not in spite of who she was, but because of it. Saturday couldn't come soon enough.